My name is Patsy Ann Wade, and I have lived in Chattooga County for 61 years. I am a graduate from Chattooga High School, 1981. I have many memories from being a student at Chattooga High. Those were good years. Chattooga had a very good football team back in those days, and the excitement, the popcorn, the meeting up with our friends at the games, and winning, of course, was always exciting. And my brother played on the football team. He was very good at what he did, and it was always so exciting to hear his name called during the pep rallies and also on Friday nights during the football games.
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights, yes.
The One Tribe is our county's theme. We have 5 schools in the county, but they all come in together as a high school. So every kid may go to different elementary schools and different middle schools, but they come together. So we are one tribe. Our sports play together, even in middle school. So we're always very much of a family.
On October 31st, that morning, it was a Sunday morning, and I had received several texts. The texts I received that morning were not the kind of text that anyone wants to receive, and I was a little shocked at seeing what had happened with this tragedy. There had been an accident the early morning of Sunday, October 31st, and in that event, there were 4 people that died from a motor vehicle crash. One was brought to the hospital and ended up being tended to by our emergency team and then went to the ICU. A part of that tragedy that made it hit so hard was there were 3 students that were killed, and we were just overwhelmed by it because they were all from Chattooga High School and very well known in their community. Behind every aspect of grief really is the evidence of love. And it's important to recognize that when we go through grief, it's not something we just go through. It actually becomes part of us. It's a storyline because in some way or form, what grief is doing is reminding us that the losses that we have felt, behind those losses, there are people, there are names, there is a person.
Xavier Gray, he was 15, and then Dre Dozier, he was 14, and then Zantavian Brown was 16. I knew Dre and Xavier, and they were my middle school students at Somerville Middle School, as I was their counselor. Dre, for me, was pretty quiet, but always so helpful. Like anytime I needed something, he was there. Xavier, I watched him grow up from the 6th grade boy into a young man. He made this remarkable transition, always so helpful, very athletic, really had a big heart and passion for others. Both those boys were incredible. I was at home when another teacher from the middle school started texting me saying, "Hey, did you hear about this wreck?" Just complete shock. Just complete shock.
It was late October. We had been in operation for less than 2 months in Chattooga County. The crews were already down for the evening to rest, and they received this call.
Dispatch advised that there was multiple injuries, several people in the vehicle unresponsive. Then they come back across and told us that we had 1 death in the vehicle, and still several entrapped in the vehicle, going to need extrication to be removed. Got on scene, there was debris scattered for about 500 feet or more, probably. just getting up to the car. Found a way to get the back hatch of the car opened up. As I'm pulling those teenagers from the back of the car, a mother shows up on the scene with some family, screaming and hollering at us to help her babies, help her babies. Chaotic event going on. Had one that was barely breathing. We loaded him into one of the ambulances and I sent 2 crews with him to the hospital. We had another female in the front seat that was still alive. She was talking, so we managed to pull her from the window of the car and took her to the hospital as well.
We had leaders that got up in the middle of the night to drive to Chattooga County to support the teammates. Once they arrived back at their facility, they began restocking their ambulances, communicating with one another, and began supporting each other.
The sense among the crew when they got back from the hospital after the wreck, they were heartbroken. There were tears flowing from several. It was a tragic day.
Those tragic accidents really take a toll on your pre-hospital care providers because they see so many different things that the general public doesn't see. So as they're restocking and getting their trucks ready for the next call, they had an opportunity to cry on each other's shoulders and just encourage each other. They were so heart-stricken by what had happened that the team members on their own decided that it was important for them to be there for the family. So as they did a memorial at the local high school, the team members came together. They went to that memorial.
It was a really emotional night. There was 3 tables with their helmets, and just to see their families walk in, I couldn't imagine being them.
What I saw and felt that night was a community coming together for a family that had lost 3 of their loved ones. And not only just a family, friends, football players. I felt God's hand on all of us that night.
It was very much one tribe, grieving and supporting one another.
Our Monday morning huddle right after the tragedy, our CEO, Kurt Stunkel, in the most caring and considerate kind of way, he said, I want you to take a moment today to pray for the Chattooga County School and the Chattooga County community and those families that have been impacted, but also pray for our emergency care crisis response team because they're going to be going to the school. We wanted to create a safe place to not only grieve, but also to mourn. As I was driving that morning, it was dark. There was this heavy, dense fog. I couldn't hardly see 10 feet in front of me. If I had not had a GPS, it would have been very easy just to go right off the road. And I started thinking about how that's exactly what absorbing tragedy and learning to adjust in it is like. Oftentimes in those small steps, you don't know where you're going. And it's so important to have some kind of source of grounding. When we entered the school, it was heavy. The feelings just from watching students was palpable.
There was a sadness that you could almost reach out and touch. I've never experienced anything like that in that setting.
It was very quiet. You just felt this darkness and this grief.
The team that I led was made up of 5 chaplains and 2 bereavement coordinators. We gathered around the school counselor, and she had put together schedules of the students who had lost their lives that we could go throughout the periods of the day just to stop by the classroom to be an available support if needed.
I was given Tydravius Dozier's schedule. Throughout the day, I would visit his classes. As I walked through that schedule, it was very emotional to see the empty chair.
This tragic situation triggered responses to other tragedies that the students and teachers had had.
In one of the classes, there was a young lady, and as I sat there in the chair, she started to show me pictures. All the pictures that she showed me were deceased family members. So I realized the situation with her classmates' deaths had caused a resurgence of deaths that she had experienced in her own personal personal life.
Our bereavement coordinator, Patsy Wade, she came and got me, and she took me to the weight room. And I ended up having some really sacred conversation with the coach who taught the class, just to share his personal feelings, but also to reflect on how amazing that student was.
Just the overwhelming sadness from even the cafeteria staff, it's something that I'll never forget.
Took up some money and we bought some flowers and took to each one of them's funeral. We also stood by and saluted the families as they went by. It made me feel like that I was able to do something for the family, give them a sense that we cared for them more than what we were able to do for them on the scene. I think life is very fragile. It can be gone in just a split second. I'd suggest living your life to the fullest every day. Thank God for what you have every day.
Behind grieving, there is a deep investment of love, and that's why we feel so shaken and we feel possibly numb. We move from relating to them from a ministry of presence to relating to them through memory. And that's where that love comes from.
I have seen these students and these teachers be really resilient in these last several months. We're a family and a tribe, and they've pulled together because remembering is hard.
In the world of grief, there's no better place than to have someone that has gone through and has been resilient to work with someone who's sharing or going through a similar journey, and allowing that person to know, despite the circumstances, you're going to make it.
The message I would give to family and friends still grieving is to continue to remember them, continue to talk about them, continue to share their stories, because they live on with that. They are always with us in our hearts.
Our grief, our loss, can actually provide a connecting point to others in their losses and actually draw us together. And that's where I think we can find hope, that's where we can find faith, and that's where we can find love. And those are the things that truly remain, and the greatest of all is love.